Hey everybody, how you doing? Dave Fennoy here, and welcome again to another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. Whoa, hey, we've got some hearts flying there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So sweet. Um, wow, the weeks just seem to be going by so fast, even though sometimes the days seem like they're going by slowly because we're all locked down and can't go many places and see many people or do that many things outside of the house. But here we are. And fortunately, in the voiceover business, a lot of us have had the opportunity to keep working, which is a good thing. Oh, let me turn up my volume there a little bit. And let me introduce you to my guest. He is a very good friend of mine, and the best working relationships sometimes are when you end up working with somebody and you guys just hit it off and become friends, as opposed to the, hey, I'm gonna make myself a friend of this person because I've never been able to do that, and I hear you laughing in the background, so let's just introduce him. My buddy Randall Ryan, who is a casting and voice director for video games. Randall, how you doing?
I am dandy. How are you doing, Mr. Fennoy?
I'm doing pretty good. You're a little bit hot. Let's see. Can I?
I really? Oh, I can fix that. I can always do that. I'm hot.
Yeah, just come down a little bit, and if I'm a little too loud for anybody, please let me know.
Okay, so how's that?
That sounds pretty good to me, and I have an audience that will definitely let us know if it's not.
They will. They will.
So, go ahead. What were you about to say?
I said I have seen said audience. Yes, they will.
Yeah.
I have been in that audience saying, "Turn up, Dave."
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope I'm turned up on that. Hey, there's Artie Wiggery said he made it. Christina, how you doing? Veronica, how you doing? Camilla, how you doing? So we became friends through work, and at one point a few years ago, I was teaching in Dallas, and you being a Texas boy and all. We were talking, and you said, "Oh, if you want me to come up and do some guest directing, I will." And I said, "Okay, you volunteering? I'll take it." And what I really enjoyed about it, and what I find with a lot of people who teach voiceover, is we're saying a lot of the same things, but using different words, looking at things from a different direction. So I'll want to get to some of that, but first of all, how did you become a casting director and director for video games?
I'll try to keep it short, which is always a problem for me. I'm a musician, and voiceover to me started as cash flow. When I got off the road, when I got done, quote unquote, playing Rockstar, really fairly soon afterwards started this company, and originally we were doing commercial music. Commercial music is great. It's highly competitive. There were lots. It was very difficult to land jobs because there were already people there that were entrenched, and kicking them out or doing something to take the job was really difficult. So we started doing voiceover for cash flow, literally just to run money through the till, and with the thought process of, well, we're not really going to make anything on this, but if they come to us for this, which there were a lot more jobs and a lot more opportunities, then maybe eventually they will come to us for the music projects. That was the original thought process. And over the course of time of hiring other people to do directing, I kind of started going, I think I can do this. And, but I wasn't a director, so I was always a little funky about that. It was just one of those things that over a long period of time, I just started watching and listening to directors and going, and when I started hearing things that I felt that they were missing, or why did you let that go there? That's when I started sticking my toe in the water to see. And for the longest time, I didn't really understand why this was something that I was apparently good at. And the story that I've told a number of times that some people may have heard, but when it clicked with me was there was a particular actor that was just having a really difficult time with this highly packed paragraph, and somebody who's just like you. It's like they're just not somebody that you ever worry about, but she was really having a difficult time with this. And so I finally said, hey, let me just do this for you. And I just did this little thing like, bum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, bum bum ba dum dum ba ba. and all that was all I did. And she's like, oh, and she just like rattled it off, and she just got it. And it just, this little thing went off in the back of my head, like, I sang that to her. I didn't give her any words. I didn't line read. I just sang something to her. And then I started paying attention to myself, outside of myself a little bit more, and realized that's it. I hear this as music. I didn't know it. I didn't even expect it. So that was both how I got into it, and then why I figured out why it was something that I had a skill for, as somebody who was never an actor or even aspired to do this.
That's kind of interesting, because I often talk to my students about the rhythm of a line or the rhythm of a paragraph that they're doing. Never with, the rhythm is this, but the push and pull of ordinary conversation. We have to find the words we're going to say, and then they're there and out they come. And it's usually also reminding them that, there's a script in front of you, but your character does not have a script. They have to think of what they're saying. It has to come to them. Sometimes if it's that character that this is something they say all the time, sure, that's gonna come out. So what are some of your someone is asking, let's see, what is this? Christina Tattersall. What do you play, Randall?
Baseball. No, I'm a keyboard player. I'm sorry. I play a lot of things. What I'm good at, if you see me on stage and I am playing keyboards, then it's like, oh, he's actually doing what he's supposed to. If you see me on stage with another instrument in my hand, you might want to check in the back of my car to see what I've partaken of before doing it, because that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah,
but I do play guitar. I do play bass. I play various wind instruments, and I play them not only because I want to, but because they make me think in a different way.
Oh yeah.
For songwriting. But I'm a keyboard player.
Yeah.
So.
And speaking of music, I'm not going to say I am a musician anymore. It used to be what I did for a living many years ago, and having a musical background does help you with the rhythm of what you're doing in voiceover. I'm not saying you have to be a musician. Lord knows a lot of people that are actors and doing this aren't. But a sense of rhythm definitely does help. So, first of all, to everybody listening out there, if you have some questions for me or for Randall, pop them in there. So, what are some of the mistakes people make when they're sending you auditions? You hear a lot of auditions. What are the things that immediately turn you off? What are the things that you really like when you get an audition from somebody?
Well, I will say that, and I'm going to keep, because we could talk about different genres. I'm going to keep this to gaming because it's the bulk of what I do. So some of the things I'm going to say are mistakes that you make in gaming that perhaps if you're doing commercial or narration or something like that would not necessarily be a mistake. And this first one, it would be one of those things. And that is, when you get an audition script for a game, and let's say you've got 5 prompts or 6 prompts or whatever the number is, what we're all really looking for that is different than a commercial is we're not looking for the greatest read of that line. We are looking for you to build a character. And so where a lot of people who come out of something like commercial will often fail is they'll see, I got 6 prompts, so I'm going to read 2 or 3 prompts of the first line, and then I'm going to read 2 or 3 different versions of the second line. and I understand the thought process, but what you don't get when you do that is the flow of the character. So if you have different ways that you want to approach that character, do that. Do your first read of like, here's the character that I hear. And then it's like, you could have this, and you know what? And I could try it with a certain kind of accent, so long as the parameters allow you to do that. Like maybe they don't say that there's an accent. And so you do that. And then you do a third one, like, I'm going to throw a wild, different, just wacky type. I'm going to make this person manic, or whatever you do. Those are all very valid. But nobody in gaming is really listening to, like, that was the greatest read of that line. We're going to hire you for that. What I'm fond of saying is, back-to-back reads are for the session. For auditions, give me the character. And don't give any of us, I don't think this is just me, I've talked to enough people that this is not just me, don't do two different versions of the same kind of voice, thinking like, well, maybe if I go a little slower with this one, a little faster. Again, that's a commercial way of thinking. That's not building a character. Gaming is about character and believability. Animation, even to some degree, has that, although it can be a little, to use your phrase, animation leans towards the funny where video games lean towards the dramatic. That's not 100% true, but it's largely true.
Yeah.
But even in animation, you're still wanting to present that character. Even if the character is a little more stereotypical or a little more two-dimensional, it's still the character.
Yeah.
It's not the perfect rendition of that line.
Yeah.
So that's probably mistake number one. And it's correctable. Mistake number two is more of a pet peeve, but I have also talked to enough people on this that I know it is not just my pet peeve. If the name of the file that has been asked for is character _ your name, stick to that. Do not do 3 takes, my weirdo nickname. Just don't put hyphens where they're supposed to be. Don't, whatever it is, just follow it. And the reason for that, and the reason it gets under people's skin, is because especially if you're getting a lot of people together for an audition, and I don't send out cattle calls the way some people do, but there are times that I just did a game. I just literally just delivered the last file today for a really large game, 20-ish actors, 50-ish characters. I mean, I haven't done a count, but it's something like that. And so you can imagine the auditions for that. There's a sort that needs to happen. And you need to know that when you're looking for, like, okay, so who read for this character? However you've named things, you want it sorted that way. And if somebody is throwing a different name in there, you can't find them. Or when you find them, you're like, why did you do this?
Now I can't find you.
Now I can't find you, right?
Yeah.
I can't find you, or or you named it something weird, and I will tell you that in a lot of cases, what happens when casting directors get that, I don't tend to do this, but sometimes that will be enough for people to toss you out because they're not looking for reasons to cast you when you have a big casting. They're looking for reasons to
not cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me get rid of the people that are giving me a headache. So. What you would say is whatever the instructions are for how you label your file that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't care how ridiculous it seems to you. There is
Label it.
probably a reason.
And not a voiceover tip per se, but a good tip nonetheless. And a lot of times now, we're getting auditions that just want your name. Without necessarily the name of the character. I'm talking about the labeling. Your name, not the name of the character. If it's a commercial, not the name of the commercial. And because you're getting a lot of them, you often like to go back and listen to an audition when your agent says, oh, you booked this thing and you've done a lot of auditions, you want to go back and see. And if you haven't done 2 files of it, one with just your name and one with the name of what the project actually is or the character actually is, you'll never find it again.
Right.
So sometimes it's a little more work for us, but give it to you the way you want it, but save it in a way that you as the actor can understand it.
100% agree. And if you need to put it in there like I did 3 takes or whatever, that's correct. But put that for you. Don't send it to them.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I got a question here from Jeff Jordan. Buddy of mine lives in Austin. That's your neck of the woods. I'm sure you hear lots of auditions. What immediately catches your ear that's a good audition?
Boy, that's a very good question and a very difficult question to answer. Again, a lot of it depends, of course, on on what you're casting. My global answer for that is something unexpected, but absolutely within spec.
Something that captures the character but has its own uniqueness.
Correct. Exactly. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to that. If you're going for a voiceover match, for instance, which does happen. Because you can't cast the actor that normally does that, but you want to get it as close as possible.
Right.
That's a different kind of scenario. But if you're really building a character from scratch, it's kind of the same way when you build a demo. A mistake that people make with demos, and I would say that this goes to auditions. Everybody, like when I'm doing voices, they want to hear funny voices. They want to, as Andrea Toyas will say, I hear all these voices, but I don't hear character development. Well, a lot of times that goes to also things like it's a wizard, so I'm going to give you like my or a pirate. There's one that everybody knows. Like everybody say pirate. Right, everybody's got this image in there, and if you just give that stereotypical image, even if you do it really well and that's really solid, you're going to be lumped in with a whole bunch of other people. And are you really building a character?
Yeah. Well,
look at Johnny Depp.
Some of those kinds of characters are the most difficult because when they're very stereotypical, everybody knows the stereotype. So everybody is probably leaning into that stereotype, and they're missing that unique thing that lets you rise above. And so often, that unique thing is you.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Sometimes lean away from the stereotype or lean away from the stereotype.
No, 100%, and especially if it's going to be a casting. So then the follow-up I would say to that is you also have castings. Again, this game I just did that I let everybody know ahead of time. I'm auditioning for these characters, but I couldn't audition for every single character, and some of them you have like 6 lines, but you still have to put somebody in that role. So in even the original casting email, it's, by the way, if you get cast, you are going to get other characters. You're not just going to do this thing. Well, that kind of informs you to some degree, too, that you need to allow yourself some range, and you need to be able to demonstrate in those auditions
some range.
That you have range to do that. So if you're only getting one character that you're auditioning, now you could pick 3 or 4 characters to audition for, or 10, or however many there were in there. I don't even know how many we sent out, 15, 20, whatever it was. Take as many as you want. Do something different with them. Don't worry sometimes if you get, because I'm going to tell you how we ran those. It's, you pick like this person to do this one character, but then what it really is you pick 3, right? You pick 3. So we'll just take character A, and character A is the hero of the story. So you got whatever the hero specs are. These 3 or 4 people are really good at that, and maybe even 1 or 2 of them stand out. The next thing you do is, all right, we know we have to give them other parts. Let's run their other auditions. And if all those other characters sound just like the hero character, it's like, well, they're good, but what are we going to do with the rest? And maybe they get knocked out because of that.
Yeah.
So sometimes audition for other roles, even if it's like, there is no way I'm going to get that role. No, but that is going to allow you to show what else you can do. Maybe you don't make that, but maybe when running those other things, it's like, listen to the range on this person. And sometimes that's enough to get you the part over somebody else who maybe nailed that one character better. But you showed all this versatility. And I will also guarantee you that for myself, that when I'm typing in my little database and I get notes on people, versatility and the ability to genuinely adopt personas of different actors and different personalities, that is a major plus for me because of so often how I do that. And because that will also make me think, it's like, you know what? I've never heard Dave do this. I'll bet if I shot this his way, he might be able to pull this off. And if you don't, it's not really a mark against you. It's like, okay, don't give Dave whatever that was again.
Okay, he can't play the girl.
He can't play he's really bad at a teenage girl. Don't ever do that again. But nobody is good at everything. So even that's not a failure. That's giving me information. But the fact that I even think of you in that way probably is because you have demonstrated, like, holy crap, this person can do it has just this wide range of stuff.
Okay.
So
cool. I've got a question here from Trey Mosley. Question for Randall.
Trey!
Oh, you know Trey. Okay, cool.
Just recently, actually, so that's awesome.
Why do some casting folks prefer a wet demo having effects over a dry demo, just your voice? Which do you prefer?
My stock answer for that is it doesn't matter what I prefer. If I am advising somebody on what to do, you're not just getting demos to me, you're giving demos to everybody. And I can probably hear, I hope, on a dry demo what it is that you are able to do. Not everybody is going to have a good ear. You're going to have people who don't cast for a living. They may cast, but they're writers that are impressed into service. They are commercial people who don't really understand character development. If you give them something dry, you are, in my estimation, going to lose. And if they're casting from demos, which I don't like to do, but again, some people do, the person who's got the it's polished. The person who's got the polished produced demo is probably going to win the job over that dry demo 90% of the time. So it's not really what I prefer. It's if you're creating a demo, what do I think is going to get you cast more often? And I do think that having something that is produced is just a better, smarter thing to do. Now, if you want to have a dry demo also and ask somebody what they want, I think that's very valid. But if you've only got enough money or enough time or enough whatever to do one, my personal thought is, for your own sake, not for my sake, produce it all the way out.
I have a good buddy in London, Mark S. Dale, who is also a director of video games, and he prefers the dry demo. And I think it's because the technology has made it very easy to take someone who perhaps doesn't have the acting chops and do a bunch of takes and cut it up and add the right music and the right effects and get something that works. And now maybe they get signed with an agent, maybe they get cast based on their demo tape, and they come in and they can't do the work. So, and there are, I don't go that far.
I don't either.
I think you need music and effects, but your voice still needs to be the star of the show.
Absolutely.
And if there's too much production, it kind of says to me that maybe you're hiding something.
Yes, I agree with. I also think that even in a dry demo, because you get it in auditions, right? Mm-hmm. You do get that audition every so often that, like, man, this person is great, and you get them in the booth. You've never worked with them, you don't know anybody that has, but they just killed it. And yeah, they spent 3 hours doing that 30-second audition or whatever it is. You can fool people with dry. You can fool people in dry reads too. So I know Mark, and Mark's wicked talented. So yes, if you ever get a chance to work with Mark S. Dale, folks, work with Mark S. Dale. He's wonderful. But this is just my opinion. I think you can fool people if your goal is to fool people into getting work. Once, you can do it. That's but that's how many times you get.
But you're gonna it's a big mistake, I think, because the conversation between directors know each other, people in the business know each other, and the conversation is going to be Joe Blow sucks. We had him in here, great voice, but boy, no acting chops.
Right.
Hey, I got one here from Kayla Renee Jackson. Hi, Dave. See you back in coaching soon. Curious question. Are you guys seeing more castings for millennial voices, more mature voices, or a good combination of the two?
You go first on that. Or is that just for me?
I think it's for both of us. And it always seems like whatever your voice is, they're casting for the other voice. It always feels like that. But there's a certain amount of truth to big, deep voices are not in. They've kind of made a little bit of a comeback since we've been in the pandemic because the soothing, comforting, wise voice is being hired not so much for video games more or less, but for commercials more, because looking for someone to calm us down and give us a sense of we're okay. But I really think in commercials, the millennial voice, the younger voice, is the voice that just the guy or girl next door, which is not the voice I have.
Yeah.
And I work all the time though, and that's the lesson in that is maybe sometimes it's better not to be that voice that everybody's looking for, because now you're one in a bunch of people. When you have a certain uniqueness, maybe you're not in that cattle call of people. The things that are right for you are going to come your way.
Yes. There's a story that, well, I can't say he was a friend of mine, but a colleague of mine said years ago that's always stuck with me. When the car became ubiquitous, one of the industries that it put out of business essentially were buggy whip manufacturers, except for one. And that buggy whip and the person that owned that buggy whip company made a fortune, because somebody still needed
to do that.
Somebody still needed to do that. Now, that's not exactly the same thing, but there is some truth to that. Like, just because whatever you have is not hot at the moment, you have you. You have something that you bring. Well, first of all, if you can't act, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you are an actor, especially now, especially when, people are looking for ethnic voices and squeaky voices and everything, it doesn't matter what your voice is. It's not what happened when you and I first started out, that there were very specific reads. There were like 3 girl reads, 3 female reads, or 3 guy reads. And maybe there was a little cause for something else, but that was kind of it. And if you didn't fit in one of those stereotypes, you just weren't going to be cast. That is not the case now. All of those quote unquote stereotypes still exist and are still used, but they're now a multitude of everything else.
Yeah.
And so if you can act, you have something that somebody wants somewhere. Be that.
Great. Hold on, here we go. Let's see, a couple things, a little housework. Artie Wiggery. Dave, are you still composing music for games? I have never composed music for games. I don't know where that came from. Steve Porter, how are you, man?
Is Artie asking me? If the answer is yes.
Yeah.
If Artie's asking me, yes. I don't do it very often, but I do still do it.
Excellent. Steve Porter, 2 Powerhouse Advisors tonight. I always love that when people let us know
Steve.
that you and me, you and I are giving good information. Jeff Jordan, thank you. Randall and Dave, you're welcome. Jim Tasker, always love this. Jim, one of the best in the business. Jim Tasker say, true, was booked on a video game for a character based on an audition I did for a different character. That happens all the time.
So I'm going to tell us, since Artie's here listening, I'm going to tell a story about Artie. There was a game called Mirage, which is made by the same people who do Chivalry, which we're working on Chivalry now, Chivalry 2. Actually, it's basically out. You did stuff for Chivalry.
Yes, I did.
I can say that because they're actually promoting it, so I'm not like violating an NDA. But there was a character that Artie auditioned for, and they loved what he did so much, but not for that character, that they wrote a character for him.
Yeah. Which happens. Which happens.
It just does, So, yeah, don't even worry about your audition so much, whether you get cast for it. You just never know where those things end up.
Yeah. All right. Marianne Fearson, Cooley. Hi, Dave. Do you think Source Connect is a good investment to have? Right now, Source Connect is necessary in this business to have. I'm also going to suggest Connection Open. Do the 14-day trial if you want to test it with somebody. Test it with me. It won't cost you anything. But Source Connect happened to be in the right place at the right time when the pandemic hit and we all needed home studios. ISDN is a thing of the past. There's a few people that still have it. I quit when they went from $150 a month to $800 a month.
Oh my gosh.
But a lot of places you can't get it. As a matter of fact, most places you can't get it, and there are not technicians anymore to run it. So if you've got it, but
That breakout box does do really well in keeping that drafty door open, though.
well, let's see what let's see. Oh, Trey said, thank you all. Luc de Villars, all the way from France. Bonjour, Luc. Ça va?
Bonjour.
And let's see. There's one thing I love in this job. It's the surprise effect in the voice acting world. Long story short, I auditioned for the video game voice for Medieval Battle Game. Lots of charge stuff. Then they asked me if I would like to participate on writing the script of the trailer and sing medieval song in the game. Wow. Amen to surprise effect. This kind of stuff happens to both of you sometimes. Whoops, wait, I knew it was long, so I have to read fast. P.S. Anyone else need a singer for a medieval song? And in Latin, of course? Ask me.
Wow.
My buddy, and you notice the medieval guy behind him in the picture that's about to chop his head off?
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Luke, watch out! Watch out, Luke! Don't let him get you, man! Luc de Villars, and great guy, and keeps in touch often. Thoughts?
On that? Yeah, that weird things do happen. Well, games, one of the things that I like about gaming that I don't find, for instance, and one of the reasons I really don't do a lot of commercial anymore, games are so much more collaborative. The devs generally are okay with you allowing the actor to help create. A lot of times in commercial, what happens is you have somebody who comes in with a very specific idea of what they want. All too often, that can be very stereotypical, whatever that may be. But because they are on such short timelines, and because, the number of sessions, and I know you've had this too, the number of times when I was doing a lot of commercial that I would literally get a call, we'll say on Tuesday, haven't seen a script, haven't talked about anything, haven't even run numbers. And one of the very first things out of their mouth is, by the way, we've already bought the media and it starts Thursday at 11 o'clock. So we got to go find somebody and record it and get it out and produce it and have it on the air. That happened all the time. So when that happens, you don't really have the time to work with much, right? If they said, white dude, 30 years old, sounds like this, that's pretty much what you got to go find, because you don't even have time to start saying, well, have you considered? It's like, no, and they're not going to. So you just go find it. You just go do it. Games are very collaborative. And once you open up that collaboration, then all of a sudden you start opening up all kinds of things. You do open up, like what just happened with Luke, like, so you sing and you songwrite, and that's probably what happened, is that probably came up in conversation, like, really? We're looking to do something like this. So I know this is a wacky thing, but can you send us some of the stuff that you've done? Because they're just more open to it.
That's why you put everything you do on your resume.
Yes.
Or nowadays, not so much resume, but social media. Whatever it is about you, have those things there.
Right. Yeah. You just never know what weird, wacky things come up. But it also works if, even if you just keep it strictly to acting.
Yeah.
The number of times that I've had characters where this is what the spec says, and by the time we're done, if you went back to what that original spec was, that's not where things ended up, because whatever the actor was bringing to the table drove it in they have the freedom to some degree to do that, and if you have a good director and you've got a good writer and you've got a good team, nobody gets offended by that or thinks like, well, this is my vision and we have to do it this way. It's like, no, that's why you hire the actor, right? They bring something to the table.
I find that in commercials all the time. You get a casting notice. They give you the parameters of who they think this character is or who this person is. And then you hear it on the air in a couple of weeks, and it's diametrically opposed to
right.
what they were asking for. Because if they really knew, they wouldn't be casting.
Right.
Have a question here. Lily Barba. Hi, Dave. Hi, Randall. I'm a Spanish voiceover talent in Mexico. Now we are working from... Say it again.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Yeah, there you go. Now we're working from home, but not all clients want to do it like this. Do you have some same situation? Um, we do and we don't. Because I've had a home studio and a lot of my co-workers, other voiceover talent that do this for a living, have had home studios for a long time, especially those of us doing TV promos. Uh, we have studios that are up to par. There are a lot of people whose studio, it was pretty much for auditioning. Maybe it wasn't, doesn't have necessarily the best equipment, the best room. So I think clients are often a little skeptical about just hiring any voice talent, even though they love your voice. They don't know what your studio is going to sound like. And you'd think if they liked the audition and the audition sounded great, even the room tone, that they'd get, oh, yeah, maybe this person, but you could have done it at your agents, who knows. But that has been a problem. But since we've been at home, for the first time, several of the AAA games that I work on have recorded me from my house. And it's particularly difficult to do games from a home studio. You always make it easy for me. But you know, you're looking for your hero takes. You know, there's questions going back and forth between the director and which is the take I'm going to use from this, trying to keep notes to keep from going crazy. Now I have to do this whole session again without the talent and pick takes. So a lot of times they don't want to do that. And because of the nature of, you know, sometimes we're speaking very quietly, sometimes we're screaming our heads off. It takes a special engineer to handle the dynamic shifts. And sometimes that person in their home studio isn't handling them that well. So some things are going to get blown out, and some things aren't going to be recorded loud enough. So I understand what they're going through, especially on video games. But if we're locked down much longer, and I don't know about Mexico, but it looks like the United States is, if we're not locked down, we're going to have to lock down again because this thing is spreading. We are number one, most cases, most deaths.
Mexico es mismo.
Yeah. So good luck with that.
I have a tip before you go to your next question. I have a tip. If this is over people's heads, don't try to internalize it or play this back later and think about it. Here's one of the ways you can deal with exactly what you said. Run a stereo file. If you have the equipment to do this, run a stereo file. Don't record in mono, and set one of your channels, like the left channel, pad it like minus 12 dB, a significant pad. Record your session just the way you're going to do it. Don't worry about adjusting your levels. Your normal and light stuff is going to be on the left channel, and it's going to sound just fine. When you start shouting and going, you're going to clip the snot out of it on that left channel. But you know what? That right channel that pretty much had stuff that was not usable because it was so low, now you've got the headroom to make that happen. And all you do is you clip them when you're done and put them into a single mono channel. And you don't even have to sit back and listen to it. You can look at it. You can go like, there's the clipping. Get that out, put that in from the other channel, and do that.
Well, there you go. Because not just a director and casting director, but also a recordist.
I have an engineering background.
Yeah, there you go. Marion and Toro, both Randall and Dave, is it okay to have different style games on one video game demo? Like a speaking cutscene from a visual novel and a fight scene from... As a matter of fact, that's exactly what you want to have. A variety of different kinds of games, different kinds of characters, different moods, different volumes, different rhythms. Yeah, what you're trying to show off is a certain amount of variety, but with your voice as the star.
Yep.
Okay. You know, we were talking the other day about casting, and Trey being on reminded me that there is an African-American voice actors page on Facebook. And
Hmm.
there's been a lot of talk lately. I mean, we don't just have a pandemic. We have a social movement going on now. Black Lives Matter, uh, and Black professional lives matter too. And no, that doesn't mean nobody else professional life matters. All our lives matter, but sometimes it has seemed that those of us with the darker hue, the minorities, the brown people, the Latinx, the Asians, black people, often roles that are supposed to be one of those people, or one of me, uh, are being played by white people.
Hmm.
And, I hear the argument, and I don't 100% disagree that we're actors so we can play any role,
Hmm.
but we are also in a business. And those people in that business of all stripes are looking to work. Since we have a diverse workers, we want to share that work with everybody. So, and I know there's been a lot of talk about the young lady who did a website pretending she was black and so forth, and I know she's got hell for that. Uh, I've also run into game developers who have had major roles done by white folks that were playing black folks,
Hmm.
and they've gotten some hell for that.
Hmm.
Uh, and the excuse I heard first of all from them was, "Well, we couldn't find anybody,"
Hmm.
and I just don't believe that. I
Hmm.
just don't buy it. There's a lot of talent out there, minority talent, Asian, Latinx, Black. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, just full disclosure, Dave and I have been talking about this because one of the things that I've been really wanting to focus on is doing, some part to help what I would call build a bench. So that's just something that's really, I mean, look, I have tried for a long time. I'm like you. I see all sides of this, to some degree, and I tried to really listen to what people have to say, and I try to, synthesize what their concerns are. And I think some people have legitimate concerns, even if I don't agree with what their concerns are. That doesn't mean that, their opinions aren't valid and their voices shouldn't be heard. But one of the biggest problems that I see, it's back to that stereotype that I was talking about with commercial to begin with. And this is one of the things that I really would like to see change and do whatever part I can to change them. I am constantly getting parts that nobody says put a white guy in this role, but it says something like 35-year-old professional, approachable, friendly, but really knowledgeable about this area. Now, there's nothing in there that says this is a white guy, you know, but I can just tell by the way it's written that that's what they're thinking. Or they'll throw in something like standard American accent. It's like, okay, um, you know, and so I will do things like I will cast people who are not white into those roles, or not cast, because a lot of times I don't make the casting decision, but I will ask people to audition. And the problem is that if somebody has this other thing in their head, they don't listen to the Latino or the Asian or the African American or whatever it is and go, oh, I hadn't thought about that, which is what I want them to do. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and we're casting the white guy. That's just, that's what they do. So one of the things that I think that needs to happen, um, that is not just me by a long stretch, but that I think we all need to be doing, is we all need to be helping to build a better bench. And what that bench is first of all, um, one of the problems that I see just from the outside looking in, and you may have different thoughts on this, but for somebody who's an African American who wants to be an actor, one of the first places where I see an issue is you look at so many roles, and this is not a global thing, but it is a macro thing. Like, well, if I'm not playing a bad guy or a sidekick or Morgan Freeman, there's no place for me. And so if you look at yourself and you're like, I don't want to be a bad guy. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the sidekick, and I do not have a voice like Morgan Freeman. Then the next thing is like, maybe I try a different career or a different part of acting. That's a problem that we have as well that needs to be changed, and needs to be changed by people like me, but also people like everybody saying, you know what, why can that doctor not be black? Why can that CEO not be an Asian woman?
Well,
And even if it doesn't change that role, if it makes them think about the next role,
yeah.
you know?
One of the things, when I was a kid, if there were black people on television, well, my parents were calling their friends, oh, so-and-so's on television. And it would always be a story that somehow related to racism. I think I've mentioned that, oh, it's the black doctor and the racist is injured and is going to die, but the black doctor saves him even though he didn't want him to operate on him. And then the racist guy lives and he rethinks his drink.
Right.
But we're living in a world now where a lot of times on television now or in movies now, it's a doctor and it's not a racial issue. The doctor just happens to be an Asian woman or a black guy or Latin.
More.
It is happening more. I'm not sure it's happening as much in the video game world. I think to a certain extent it's beginning to happen in the commercial world. I'm hearing a lot more ethnic voices. And my thought is we as Americans who are living here, we have to broaden what our idea is of an American voice. We have a variety of American voices from different parts of the country that sound a little different, from different ethnic persuasions that sound a little different. But we're all Americans. We are all a part of this society, and we should be able to sell to whatever demographic. Now, a guy of my age, I'm probably not selling product to 20-year-olds. But a guy of my age can sell products to grown people. And it doesn't matter. And we often hear voices from other places in the world. We hear a lot of Australians, a lot of English, a lot of Indian. I hear some French voices. I hear accents from other places that are doing just fine without necessarily selling to that particular part of the world.
Right.
And we just have to open our minds as to who we are.
Right. I agree. And I think that is a long conversation, but I think that the other side of that is that also comes with and this is the hard part, and I'm not saying this is not hard for me too, because it is, but you also have to listen to people who genuinely have a different point of view. Because for starters, sometimes their gripes, whatever those gripes are especially to them, it's legitimate. They may not even be thinking that I'm being racist in doing this. What they know is like, I used to get all this work, and now all of a sudden I can't get this because anything that is even remotely off the beaten path, I can't do anymore. And so I don't know what to do, and my place in the world has been taken away. Okay, it's really easy sometimes to say, well, serves you right, because look at all the things that happened to you because of your gender or your race or whatever that were positive that you didn't have to think about. Okay, that may be true, but for that individual right now, they're not working. And they see that their livelihood has been threatened.
And they typically want to blame the wrong people.
And that could be.
The excuse is, those Mexicans are taking your work. Oh, those black people are taking your work. Oh, the insert group here that is the cause of your hurt and pain. When the truth of the matter, it's people probably look just like you who are pulling the strings and saying the things to make you feel like the problem is these other people, but it's really those people pulling the strings.
That is possibly true, but I still think that you have to listen to what they have to say, and you don't just listen like, okay, I got to be polite here. Listen and listen to that point, almost like being a counselor. What's their point of pain that they're getting at, and what is it that that's really hurting, and is there a solution here? That's a hard thing to do, but that's one of the problems that I think that we're having right now. I mean, regardless of what your political stripe is, or regardless of what your profession is, we seem to have really in the and I think this is a global problem, but I think it feels more in the United States like this is, whether it's actually more acute in the United States or not. It feels, certainly with everything that's going on, like one of the things that we've done is we've forgotten the ability to listen to somebody else.
Yeah.
And
have empathy for somebody else,
and have empathy for them,
and recognize that I know it sounds trite, but the idea of equality.
Correct.
It doesn't mean everybody can do all the same things, but we all should have the same opportunity.
Yeah. Right.
But let's see. I'm gonna move on to something else. Jen Henry, hi guys. Two of the last faces I saw before we weren't allowed to see faces face to face. I view so much from Get Your Game On 2020. I was right here in Los Angeles and booking with it. Thank you. You are welcome. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Get Your Game On right just before all of this shut down.
That was it.
Let's see. Evan Richards, hi there. I'm thinking of getting a Sennheiser 416 in the future. Is that a good mic for auditions as well as for home studio? Big thumbs up from me.
I have mixed emotions on that.
Oh boy. Oh, you technical guys.
No. But again, so much of this is personal opinion, right? Okay. So I'm not going to say do or first of all, I will never say to anybody do or don't with a specific microphone. What works for you? What do you sound good on? And by that, what do you also do other people say you sound good on? Because sometimes people, your ears will fool you. You hear like a certain frequency, and you're like, man, that makes me sound good. And somebody else gets that, and it's like, I don't know what mic you're using, or I don't know. They don't even think mic. I don't know what your recording technique is, but everything is just so bass heavy and muffled. It sounds great to you, and you're like, oh, listen to me, I sound like big dude, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you do have to be careful there. Here is the thing that I would be careful of with any shotgun mic, depending on your technique and depending on genre. They are very good. So Dave uses a 416. Actually, Dave uses a couple different mics, but we've actually A/B'd his mics just for jollies because we just did a couple weeks ago. But if any shotgun mic has a super tight polar pattern, right? And so if you are really good at keeping your head within and also you have to be a distance away. There are all kinds of things we can talk about with shotguns, but the bottom line is if you are really good at keeping yourself in a really good tight spot, your head, your voice, it can be a wonderful mic. If you move around, if you are demonstrative, if you start to get off axis at all, man, I can tell you from somebody who engineers and who has to edit and master that your levels go all the hell over the place. And sometimes the frequencies that it capture go all over the place, and it can be a nightmare to try to edit. It can be a nightmare to try to pull together.
Okay, I have a question for you. So we
Yes.
have done some games I've recorded here on my 416.
You've done both. You've done it with that, and you've done it with 421.
Yeah, but no problems. With
Most of the time. Remember, what made us do the test was I said, what mic were you using? You're like, I was using my 416. It's like, okay, let's try it. Remember, because there was something, I don't even remember what it was. It was something, I don't even remember what project it was. But this has been in the last one.
Yeah, I think the thing you told me, well, both of them sounded great, but then when I just did them back to back, I could tell, this must be the 416. Mm-hmm. You like the quality of the 103 a little better than you like the 416.
The 103, right? Yes. Yeah. So TLM 103, that's what it was, right? Yeah. Yes.
But I recommend the 416 with the caveat that you do have to know how to use it. But it's a very, very versatile mic. You can work it close. You can work it, the regular 6 to 8 inches, or even further if you're doing very loud stuff.
Right.
Let's see. Christina Tattersall, Evan, I love mine. Reach out if you have any questions. Well, see, there we go. We get help.
Oh.
And she just said it so quickly. And
yeah, again, does it work for you?
Yeah.
Is everybody happy with your product? And then the answer is, yeah, it's a great mic. It certainly is a heavily used mic, and there is something to be said for any microphone that
is heavily used. Yeah.
is heavily used.
Yeah, it's called the LA voiceover mic. Oh,
Yep.
and Lily from Mexico said, "Hola."
Hola.
And Steve Porter, what a great idea, Randy. I think he's talking about recording in stereo. One channel about 12 dB hotter or lower than the other. Shauna Pennington, Baird up there in Seattle, stereo channel, brilliant. They like that idea. Oh, man. Let's see. Jackie Bales, recording in stereo to come. Okay, hey, you hit a nerve there.
We hit a nerve.
Let's see. Marion Toro, Randall, I have the equipment to work in stereo. I shall try that out. Thank you both for answering my question. On the right track. Oh, you've given some good stuff. Jason Lanier White, Dave Voice Gangsta. Once again, I love my fantastic voiceover people who check in and say hello. What's up, Jason? Got 100% there. Larry Davis. Morgan Freeman has a great voice, and Larry Davis does an amazing Morgan Freeman.
Yes, he does.
If he didn't have another voice, he could be Morgan Freeman.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Valencia Staten Dobson. Hello, I have an urban Southern accent, and that has been a big fear of mine as to why I haven't put more effort into trying to start my VO career. You two made me feel a lot better talking about how more ethnic voices are being heard. There is, I believe, a wider acceptance now of various kinds of voice. Part of that is, as a society, we are looking to hear from regular people. We don't want to hear that professional voice that is selling us products that don't work anymore. Here, I want you to buy that used car. I mean, I spend a lot of time on radio and just kind of have one of those voices anyway. And I know for me, I have to lean away from that and into just a more normal, natural way of speaking. But we, as a society, we don't want to hear that guy now. We want to hear from somebody that reminds us of us, or reminds us of somebody that we liked at some point in our life, or maybe even somebody we didn't like, but that we recognize as real. I think that's where we've gone in our society. And
I have a quick addition to that, too. The next frontier, I hope. What's really weird is this happens with things like British accents. It's like, give me your, look, one of the games that I've been working on for a ridiculous period of time, I actually figured out it's been 15 years, which is hard to believe, is Lord of the Rings. It's hard to believe that game's been going on that long, and yet there it is. But, when we go to British accents, it's like Yorkshire, West Country, Manchester, Liverpudlian, East London, West London, it's all a specific thing. Okay, why are people not doing that with American ethnic voices? It's not just generic white Southerner, and it's also not just generic African American. It's like, are you from the South? Even if it's like, even if you're urban, it's like, okay, are you New York urban? Are you Atlanta urban? Are you LA urban? Because I'm telling you, they sound different. And if your ear can't hear that, you might want to start listening to people a little bit more. It is, accents are regional, and there are sub-regionals and sub-accents. And so if you have a voice that is not, because you said Southern urban, okay, run with that. Use that. Exploit it. Be that. Why not? Why not be like, why can't you become like one of the go-tos for that? There's no reason not to. You're the buggy whip manufacturer. We're looking for that.
Yeah.
People are looking for that. And the more that their ears get trained and the more people start thinking in those terms, you're going to start getting casting directors and other people that do start hearing it differently. And it's not just generic African-American voice, and we'll divide it into Morgan Freeman and urban. It's like, no. It is way more complicated and way more diverse.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is, I used to get that a lot. be doing a gig. Oh yeah, can you make it blacker? And I finally
Sorry.
started saying to directors, I don't know what you mean. I knew what they
Right.
meant, but I don't know what you mean.
Right.
And would you ever ask a white actor to make it whiter?
Right.
I mean, are you looking for urban hip hop guy from New York? Are you
Right.
looking for somebody from the Delta that didn't get past sixth grade? Are you looking for a professor from San Francisco State? I mean, what? Who are you
Right.
look? Who are we talking about? And I think that kind of thinking wakes up people's biases that they don't know they have, thinking, oh, well, black people sound like this,
Right.
or white people sound like this, or Asian sound, whatever. Listen, we got a really long one here. Luke de Villar, I have an issue, a very recent one, as my students, which will be the brand new generation of actors here, told me many students in the group will refuse to do any cliche accents or play any racist character or homophobic, even they will refuse to sound queer for the wrong reasons. They do understand that the character is not the actor behind it, but they say it's maybe time to stand against it. I agree with them, but I'm also concerned about what will. Oh, it's need more than 30 seconds. What will happen when they will leave the academy for them? I'm just 30, and they make me feel like I was born a century ago. Well, the world is changing. The world is
Mhm.
changing, and when you look and see who's marching in the streets, protesting the murder of George Floyd, it's everybody and it's the whole world, which I think is a good thing.
Mhm.
I think it's wonderful that people have woken up and taken a stand, and they're not just taking a stand on Black Lives Matter. They're taking a stand on what would be the thing you hate to hear when you say Black Lives Matter, but taking a stand on all lives matter, in terms of we want to be fair and just to everybody,
Mhm.
and that includes insert group here,
Right.
whoever that group might be. The pendulum is going to swing a little too far. I guarantee it. We're going to have some
It
people
is.
that are, what you really, uh, but the pendulum needs to swing,
Yeah.
and we need to get to a place of more understanding of one another, as you say, the ability to listen to one another, and we're so divided now. We see things in the news now that just baffle me, and break my heart, because we don't have to be this. Most of us, I don't think, are, but
No.
we're seeing a lot of mess out there.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. Oh, we had a and it.
So super, super, super quick thing to Luke. Um, I think the same thing. Listen to what your students have to say. Um, don't worry. This is always tough to say because you're the teacher in this role. To some degree, life will inform them of some things. You can't arm them with everything. And and if there's a time to ever take an idealistic stand, is it not when you're in your early and mid 20s? There will be enough things that will beat the idealism out of you as you age. So let them have. Don't try to necessarily say, boy, when you get out there, this is again my point of view. Let that idealism live in them for a while.
Yeah.
It's lovely. That's what changes the world. Pragmatism will come in, and it needs to, but let them have it. And if this is something they don't want to do, they'll learn whether or not that's something they can continue to stand for and say, I'm not doing this kind of thing, or whether that they'll bend on that. And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Got a comment here. Love this conversation. As a newbie, I've had these thoughts over and over. Sometimes the things that we take for granted, other people are really struggling with.
Hmm.
So it's one of the reasons I do this. I could not possibly think of all the things that somebody else might be concerned with. And it's nice to get that comment that, wow, you answered something for me that I didn't, that we didn't know we were it was that important to them, or this was really an issue with them. Christopher Lewis, what's everyone's thoughts on the CAD E100s? I can't offer anything, Christopher. I don't know that mic at all. Just going to get through the last. Charity James, hey guys, when you were speaking of wet versus dry, were you talking about auditions or demos? We were talking about demos. We were talking about demos, Charity.
Auditions, never anything but dry. Never.
Let's see. Valencia, stand up. I'm definitely regular. Well, good. You won't need that laxative. Ellery King, I'm sorry, I have a terrible sense of humor. Hey guys, thanks for this. This info from two straight up pros like you guys is ridiculously valuable. Ridiculously and valuable at the same time. I love it. And I don't know what Larry Davis is answering here. Berkshire, England.
Something about the accents?
Maybe. Sophia Cruz, what's going on? Authenticity is so important now. So true, so true, so true. Thank you. I'm Alabama urban living in Tennessee. So in Tennessee, they're going, where are you from? Renee Tabor, did you hear about the white voiceover celebrity who is a black character that decided to give up? Oh, there are several cartoons. And once again, I remember when those were cast, especially the Cleveland show. I'm black. I'm from Cleveland. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But that thinking has to come from the top. The casting directors, the producers. Somebody should have said, you know what? This isn't a good idea. We're in a place of consciousness now with most of us as Americans that I don't think that's going to happen that way anymore. Let's see, a couple more. What do you do when you're away from the studio with no professional quality mic available for fast, urgent need? Have you ever resorted to your iPhone's mic or webcam mic that wound up being good enough?
Well, if you're asking, I can't really answer that from an actor's perspective. When I get an iPhone audition, I know it. You don't even have to tell me. And I will just tell you that, and this is different from like I have a good USB mic that I'm using and I'm putting it in a quiet area and I happen to be using my iPhone as the vehicle, but just this, it's not just that I hear it. It's that client who is also in on the casting decisions are going to hear it. And they're not going to know, oh, that person's on an iPhone, so the recording quality isn't as good, so I need to listen to their performance and hear what they do. They're going to go, that doesn't sound good to me. Again,
yeah.
What will disqualify you? That will disqualify you.
I have another opinion on that. I certainly wouldn't do it all the time, but just as he said, in a pinch, I have had to do it. I have booked from using my iPhone. But this is Dave Fennoy. Sorry, caught me at the last minute. I'm on my iPhone.
Correct.
Forgive some of the sound quality. I'm on my iPhone. I'm in my car on my iPhone. Whatever. I
have to, and make sure it's like this is not normally what I do. I have to do this. If you like what I do, and if you like what I do, and you need to hear this on a large diaphragm mic, can you give me 24 hours? In the meantime, here's my audition.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I'm hitting the deadline, and I still named it what it's supposed to be named.
Dig it.
Everything else.
JT Miller, hey y'all. I love that. Hey y'all from Dallas, Texas. I'm new to the game, coming from the music biz. I've done a lot of VOs for new music coming out just because I could do it for free, LOL. Still do some things here and there, but what is the best advice you can give a new cat that wants to do this for real? I'll let you.
Take acting lessons if you haven't.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. It's not about your voice. That is the misconception. It's about whether or not you can act.
Yeah.
And that is true even if you're doing commercial work. There's this misconception that commercial voices and narrators don't act. They just are the voice. It's like, yeah, no, not true. Even if you have to act in a very narrow range, you still have to be able to act. You still have to sell that product. You still know how to be able to make something rise and fall. And even if there's a specific commercial patter to it, there's still a range that you got to work that you have that you
Yeah.
can work with. So
Yeah.
acting first.
Take classes, take private lessons, get a very good demo done. Make sure that you have a website that's easy for people to hear what you sound like, be able to contact you. And when you're ready, start knocking on the doors of agents. But don't think of this as, oh, wow, I'm going to become an overnight sensation. Like anything else that's worthwhile, you're going to have to build it a step at a time. It's going to take a while. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme.
2 years, 2 years if you're totally diligent and you have a lot of talent.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to wrap up a few more. Thanks so much for both of your time. Share it again. Thank you, Steve. Walter Wiz, thanks for today's Zoom session, Dave and Randall. We should never stop learning. And this wasn't Zoom. No matter how long we've been talking to ourselves, this wasn't Zoom. Anyway.
Everybody, it's all Zoom. It's going to be like Xerox. This is all just going to be Zoom.
Yeah.
Are we doing a Zoom session? Yeah. What are we using? Facebook. Okay.
Facebook and Ecamm. Yeah, there we go. And Skype.
And Skype.
Well, listen, my friend. Let's wrap it up. We usually are cutting out about 7. It's 7:11, and I feel like a Slurpee. But thank you for joining me. You had so much good information. This was a little bit of the kinds of conversations that we have on the reg. So
yeah,
there you go. And thank you, everybody. And next week, I'll be back. Another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. And how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to get in touch with you?
Well, my company is Hamsterball Studios, so the simplest way is just to go to hamsterballstudios.com, and there is no P in hamster, HAMSTER, Ball Studios. My email is Randall, which is my full first name, at hamsterballstudios.com. But all that you can find at the Hamsterball Studios website. That's probably just the easiest thing. I'm on I'm the typical person. I'm on the Twitters. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the LinkedIn. Whatever.
No TikTok?
I watch it.
Yeah, there we go. All right,
I'm not on the.
I'm pulling the plug on this thing. Randall, love you, brother. And
man.
Talk to you soon. Hey, Kimberly Woods, what's going on? Thank you both. You're welcome, and goodbye.
Bye.